It's really getting interesting. A couple of books ago, I wrote about the fact that there's some very interesting research that deep kissing or French kissing, it seems to be a universal pattern among humans and certainly a lot of advanced species.
Yeah.
And there is an argument that I think can be very well made that your collection of bacteria intermingle with the collection of bacteria in this person you're kissing, and the bacteria actually make the decision of who they're most compatible with. Yeah. And it sounds woo-woo, but I think when you read Gut Check, you might be surprised it's not as woo-woo as you think. Yeah. The other thing that I've written about is we have a bacterial cloud around us, and there's some good arguments that can be made that this idea of personal interspace distance between us, where we begin to get uncomfortable, maybe our bacterial cloud running into the bacterial cloud of the person we're next to and actually reading that information. So it's not as odd as it seems.
And there's also the electromagnetic conversation there as well, like the HeartMath Institute.
Yeah, exactly.
The electromagnetic frequencies coming from different parts of our body. I think our heart extends out the furthest, and so that's an interesting thing. When we're in a room with each other, we're kind of entering into each other's containers.
Correct.
It's very fascinating. And, go on.
Oh, and there's one more kind of interesting piece. There's many women know about a hormone that's released right after birth when the baby starts suckling on the breast called oxytocin, and it's called the love hormone, and you bind with oxytocin. Recently, a bacteria in the gut has been discovered that manufactures oxytocin. And that bacteria is actually, we think, used to be very common, but now it's like most of the bacteria in our gut has been wiped out. And isn't it interesting that a bacteria might be responsible for love?
What do you think the path towards defragging or clarifying a person's desires are? Do you think that, I know we're going beyond gut check book programming, but do you think perhaps like the age-old, meditation is a path towards defragging that and kind of developing mind beyond the bug's desires?
Well, yeah, and meditation actually has been shown, and I've written about this in previous books, meditation actually changes the gut microbiome dramatically for a much more diverse gut microbiome. So I think the more we kind of know about the gut microbiome, and remember, we didn't know these guys existed until the Human Microbiome Project finished in 2016. We didn't know they were there, really, and we didn't know that there's 10,000 different species, and we're just now figuring out what each of these guys do, and the interdependence of these guys on each other, and I talk a lot about that in Gut Check, and how these guys control so much of what we've assumed our brain is in control of, like anxiety and depression.
Yeah. So something else that's interesting is the percentage of neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut. So something I think like 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. And when we say gut, could you define gut? Because is that intestines? Is that
well, your gut
other organs?
Technically begins in your mouth and nose. Sure. And then goes all the way through your stomach, small intestines, large intestines, and out your rear end. That surface area is actually the same surface area as a tennis court inside of us. And so that's the gut. But living within the gut are 100 trillion organisms. And that's a large amount of organisms. For instance, like I write in the book, there's been a recent count that there are 3 trillion trees in the world. So there are 97 trillion more bacteria living in our gut than there are trees in the world, just to give you the enormity of that.
Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you did, feel free to tag us on the Instagram. You can find me at Aaron Alexander on there. Also check out the YouTube channel. That is at Align Podcast. Subscribe over there so you get each week's videos and instructional content. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for reviews. Thanks for joining you. I'll see you next week.